So today I'm going to be discussing the efficacy of transcranial direct current stimulation, tDCS for short, on the treatment of depression. But before we attempt to understand and analyze the effects of tDCS on depression, we have to understand its functionality. Transcranial direct current stimulation is an electrode-based treatment in which weak electrical currents are focused to specific areas of the brain. With the depression, it's usually the dorsolateral prefrontal cortex. Before we continue to look at the technicalities of tDCS and depression, it is important to understand the history of the technique. Back in 1801, Giovanni Aldani utilized a galvanic battery to give small electrical pulses to a patient suffering from depression. After he did such treatment, it was said that the patient was cured of the depression a few weeks later. More recently, though, tDCS was rediscovered towards the end of the 1990s. Now, taking a step away from tDCS and examining the components of depression, the main neural areas that are linked to depression include the hippocampus, which decreases by 20% in major depression, the prefrontal cortex, which is linked to decision making, and a number of others. An underproduction of serotonin and dopamine also strongly contribute to depressive symptoms. And then, as infamously known, physical symptoms of depression include fatigue, insomnia, loss of appetite, and others. Mental symptoms include feelings of worthlessness or guilt, lack of self-satisfaction, suicidal thoughts, and a number of others. Now finally, bringing the brief introductory knowledge of tDCS and the characteristics of depression, we'll look at the effectiveness. In one study done by Liu et al., they examined the efficacy of tDCS on the treatment of depression and found that a 28% decline in depressive symptoms occurs after 3 weeks of treatment. Alternatively, other researchers, Palm et al., tested the effects of tDCS on treatment-resistant depression, although they found no significant effects. Supporting the finding of the two previous studies, Brunoni et al. Examined tDCS as a treatment for acute depressive episodes. They found that 23% of patients given treatment had remission. However, there was also no notable effect in the treatment-resistant depression. Then, from a different perspective though, with many new alternative non-pharmacological and pharmacological treatments being introduced for depression, it is worth mentioning that there are a number of new uprising strategies. From a non-pharmacological perspective, Edge found that fixing regular sleep patterns can be very beneficial in the recovery from depression. Alternatively, from a pharmacological perspective, Newport et al. Found that ketamine as a treatment for depression has a higher efficacy for the reduction of depressive symptoms than SSRIs. Functionally, it increases activity at sigma receptors, whilst also changing patterns of production in the dopaminergic and serotonergic systems. With all the potential and greatness of tDCS, also comes its limitations. These include the vulnerability to type 1 and type 2 errors due to the generally smaller sample sizes that are used in the trials. Another is the significant change in depression post-tDCS, although there has not been many studies to actually validate this. With all as researchers Del Priori, and Altamura found, advantages of tDCS include its safety, opportunity for placebo studies, cost reduction for studies, and many others. Lastly, tDCS has proven to be successful in treatment of depression, though there is still further to go. Research is currently being undertaken using tDCS to examine the development of many characteristics in children. tDCS offers a fantastic opportunity to explore the development and triggers for conditions and disorders including epilepsy, autism, and cerebral palsy. It is the future.